And just like that, we're back right here at the AWS studio at Mobile World Congress Barcelona. My name's Robbie Belson, I'm your host, and I'm joined by industry experts from NG Voice, BCG, and cellC as we unpack IMS, the case to migrate, why now, and we're going to pair a recent research report from BCG as well as an exciting customer story from cellC. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here today. Let's start with a round of introductions. Over to you, David.
David, CEO of NG Voice, a Germany-based software developer for fully containerized network functions.
Michael Steiger, a Managing Director and Partner at BCG and our Global Center for Telco Networks.
Wonderful. And Schalk?
Schalk Visser, Chief Technology Officer at cellC, mobile operator in South Africa.
So before we dive a little bit deeper into the research report that Michael, that your team led, let's talk about the cellC transformation journey with IMS. Where does that story begin, and when does that story begin?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think our story starts way before the migration that we started with the NG Voice team. If we think from a technology perspective, we were the first mobile operator in the world to switch off our radio access network and move to a fully virtualized radio access network. And in line with that network strategy, we were the first to also introduce the cloud-native IMS platform, the first in Africa for that matter. And the reason for that being is it gives us the ability to move quicker than our competitors and also just to give customers better services much faster and more efficiently. So it's in line with our built-in willingness to innovate as quickly as possible.
Such a tremendous achievement and a ton to unpack there, but I'll turn the floor over to you, Michael, and tell me where some of the customer signals that you were seeing, the likes of cellC, some of the reasons that motivated you to create this report in the first place?
Yeah, thank you. And I think, I think there is a violent agreement with operators that moving to the cloud and to cloud nativeness is crucial, right? On the other side, operators struggle with it and where to start from a cost complexity, but also from a capability angle. And so that was one of the reasons when we talked to David and then also to AWS to see, okay, how can we, put together a report? How can we put together a signal a bit to the industry? What is a good start to begin with, right? And so that's where we put a bit of effort in, and one of the findings was that putting and starting with the IMS is a smart choice, and putting in first to cloud-native architecture and then also to the public cloud. And so that's what we outline in our report.
And I think it's such a fantastic story that you tell. Your report titled A Smart Way for Telcos to Accelerate Their Cloud Strategy, which we'll link in the show notes. When you're telling this story, you chose to bring in a number of partners, of course, AWS and NG Voice being great examples. How did you select partners when going about this narrative?
So the way we look at this, and we're of course partner agnostic, right? And we always look at, with whom are our clients working with, and that what do we see there? And we also look at maybe a bit smaller companies to see what are innovative approaches, right? Because if you're an operator, you're looking at the huge vendor ecosystem and looking at what works, what doesn't work. And it was very important to us to see, okay, which companies have deployments there, and it also helps if there is a big partner involved to give a little bit of credibility to the mix. That's also what we work at when we work with clients and how to advise them to look forward to. Yeah.
And so David, from an NG Voice perspective, of course, IMS is your bread and butter. Tell us a little bit more about your rich experience in this space.
Look, I think if we look at the IMS experience and what Michael said, why the IMS is a great starting point for, I think, not only public cloud transformation, but as well like for an automation journey, right? I think there's three reasons from our perspective. The first one is, with the cloud-native IMS, we're really solving an industry challenge, right? Because, the revenues in voice have been coming down for the last year, so there's a challenge for operators to bring down the internal cost structure, right? Second piece is, as we've shown in the report together with BCG and AWS, we're able to bring down the cost by up to 70%. So that is a significant savings thanks to automation, thanks to a very small resource footprint, thanks to scalability, right? And the third part, which I think is as important, it's a great starting point for an organization to build new capabilities that you need in the automation and public cloud journey, right? I think for many times we see that the IMS is the first function, the first network function that is actually running on the public cloud. So it's the first time you talk about different release cycles for CI/CD. And it's a great opportunity to build the kind of internal org structure you need for the broader public cloud transformation going forward.
So you're making the case essentially that migrating IMS to the cloud, tremendous benefits in cost, stability, and path to innovation. I'm curious, Schalk, from your perspective, is that exactly what you've seen firsthand?
Yeah, it's actually spot on in terms of just the experience that we've gone through, because it's not our first AWS deployment from a AWS working together in perspective. We've deployed a OCS into AWS already from a billing perspective, but this is the first network function that we've put into the AWS or public cloud. And there's a big learning experience. You've got engineers on the ground that's been used to working on tin, plugging in a wire. Now they need to have a complete mind shift in terms of how they work with these new technologies. Right. So to David's point, it's a nice stepping stone into getting people on board into this new way of doing things, into where the technology is heading. So no, really spot on.
I'm curious, what surprised you most in the journey? Technically, commercially, culturally, your choice?
People. I think technology is pretty predictable. You can manage technology, you can manage risk and so on, but the willingness of the people in the teams to step up and take on that additional load. It's not someone he's been trained, he's been schooled in a certain way of doing things, and now you're expecting him to step out of his comfort zone and put in the extra hours to make it a success. And that's the thing that actually stood out for me in our projects.
So there's almost like a fourth factor here. Again, we talked about cost, stability, path to innovation, but there's almost like an X factor, intrinsics that play an important role. If you were to take another pass at the report, Michael, what might you recommend or include, rather, by way of X factors that also or that characterize the effectiveness of an IMS migration?
It's a difficult word, but sometimes I would say it's kind of a test case, right? How to get started, right? And I think I would consider it almost like a full package.
Yeah.
That you say, look, there is a cost benefit, but moreover, there's the scalability of cost benefit, because we talked about this. Where does voice go? Where does voice revenues go? So you want to have a bit of flexibility. There's a learning experience. So you have a capability built in the way what you described. People get excited to test it, to try it out. And most importantly, there's also a customer migration. So you have interactions in the live network. So you touch the customers. And I think we all know the moment you bring in any systems, any tools which customers are being touched. So it gives confidence to an operator to say, let's go function by function and let's start. And that's why we're also advocating a bit that IMS is a smart choice to go first.
Definitely.
You've mentioned a really important relationship, and that's, of course, cost and time horizon, and that innovation journey, as you increase that timeline, you're able to yield even greater savings. From the report that you and the team authored, how do you characterize that relationship between TCO and time horizon? And what are some of the other variables that you considered?
So it's a fair question. So we in the report we go about what are the sizes of cost or above. We look at three types of costs. We look at platform costs, right? How they evolve, like when you deploy cloud native architecture. We look at product cost, right? In terms of how can vendors produce and maintain software, and we look at, of course, operations cost, right? And I think that is also a bit in sync how fast you migrate, right? So it's a question how fast you go through, and I think here you're more the expert, you know, how fast you migrate it, how fast you put it through, and then you yield the benefits, and then you can also switch off any legacy solutions.
How does that align with what you've seen firsthand?
I think it's fully spot on, right? I think first there are two different kind of use cases. There's the use case of operators that is like launching VoLTE or voice over NR for the first time, right? I think we've seen that we can do the whole deployment within whatever 8 to 16 weeks. Yeah, so that's quite a quick, period from the first day on the ground until your, subscribers are migrating, right? Then we have a second group of operators that we're working with where there's already a legacy virtualized IMS in place. You're trying to find the first right use case, right? And there's the range of use cases like voice for IoT, for example, that you need for emergency calling. It's disaster recovery based on public cloud to have a backup, or this, capacity expansion, right? So there are different use cases where you can start with the, players where there's already something up and running, where you need to trigger the migration mainly for cost reasons. But I think one of the indeed, main advantages of benefits of working with a fully cloud native environment is the very short deployment time, and that kind of time benefit is going to continue when it comes to upgrades, updates, and so on, right? It's all done on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis, so there are significant savings when it comes to the operations.
So I'm curious, let's stay with you, David. As you think about those two different personas or customer types, are there any myths that need debunking in those early customer conversations?
Look, I think at the end, what do you need to be successful in this journey, right? I think the first part is you need a courageous leader in an operator to say, hey, I'm going to champion this, right? And I want to do this. I want to do something differently, and I want to lead my organization through this transformation, right? I think the second one for me is as a kind of success factor don't replicate what you've got, right? We're not trying to automate the existing processes, right? But we're trying to do something totally different from scratch, right? And then the third one is, you need to work with the operations team from day one. Yeah, that needs to be a joint effort. That can't be done on a, just nice on a drawing board, but you need to have everyone's buy-in, and you need to build this, high-level design and everything together from day one, and then just get going. Yeah, I think that's how it is.
Michael, how might you add to sort of David's innovation mindset playbook?
I think, look, it's a great playbook. And I think when I look at operators, I see a bit two worlds. I see those who are really saying, I want to shape it. I want to take, in a way, full ownership and say, I'm testing and trying out. And there are others, and I think that's totally fair, who are more on the path. Maybe I would call it more of a smart follower. I'm saying I'm more talking to the vendor ecosystem to let them manage my network. So I think it's a fair choice. It's a bit what operator you want to be. No judgment at all. And I think that's why I think the start is a great thing. And I think we've all been there like a couple of years ago where there were the big automation end-to-end use cases or automation roadmaps putting in place. And we all know what really materialized out of there. So I think it needs a little bit of a fresh start, the discussion. And I think that's why it's a good case to start with.
Any of these pieces of advice come up in some of those early conversations you had?
Yeah, it actually touches on you have to start somewhere.
Right.
And the decision that we've made internally is to be that operator that actually tries new things. We have less technical debt than I believe typical big operators got. So we are able to move a little bit more agile, if I can use that word. But yeah, you have to start somewhere. And I think if you take the teams on the journey from day one, there's a lot of value that you can unlock with the partners.
And I'd argue in your case, you didn't just start somewhere, you succeeded mightily. So I might look ahead, 2025 and beyond, what's next?
Yeah, I think what's next is we're already toying around where do we go from a 5G SA perspective, 6G, and it actually links into the work that's been done together with AWS and NG Voice is what's next? How do we position ourselves to that we are at the best position possible to move quickly when those technologies become a reality, when those use cases become a reality. So yeah, it's a never-ending searching story of what next. But yeah, the teams are committed to that.
So in that spirit, Michael, as you think about Schalk's powerful story in the context of the report, what do you want an audience to take away?
So look, and I think you mentioned one point, like you need to get started somewhere, right? And I think it's a good case to start with because, and when we look at network, looking at cost is super important. And of course, customer experience is as critical as ever. And so having this as a start case to have an end-to-end package of getting started, of getting the cost, capability, and also, I call it test experience is super critical. So how to get started and bit on your own chart and of course.
Then I'll close with you, David. If we zoom out for a second, powerful customer story, powerful research report, if we pull that all together and you think about your journey with cloud partners as a whole, what do you value most in AWS and the value that we can bring for you, your partners, and the industry as a whole?
If we think about this whole automation and public cloud journey, right, we need an ecosystem of partners that are willing to invest into the kind of next generation of networks, that are willing to take the first step, that are willing to take the risk as well. Right? I think with AWS, we found a partner that is, highly valued by many of our customers, where we managed, to jointly develop a value proposition that is significant for customers, that brings a learning kind of journey, that is beyond the IMS, right? And I think that is what we appreciate, with AWS, that we can, leverage the existing platform for the benefit of our clients.
Well, we thank you for the collaboration. We're grateful to be a part of the report. We're grateful to be a part of your cloud transformation journey. And for all of those tuning in who want to learn more about the journey with NG Voice, BCG, cellC, and beyond, you can visit AWS for Telecom on LinkedIn, on the web, and on behalf of the entire AWS for Telecom team, thanks so much for joining us in the studio, and we'll see you next year in Barcelona.
Thank you.
Thank you.